Hi, welcome to Talking Text. Our passage is Psalm 1 and from verse 1. By way of brief introduction to the Psalms, they are a collection of hymns and praises to God, as well as honest prayers and laments before God. We find in the Psalms the full range of the human experience and the full range of human emotions, which is why it's such a wonderful book. We can easily find ourselves there, and it helps us to process and sanctify our own experiences and emotions. We also find in the Psalms the full breadth of the theme of the Scriptures and the full story of the Scriptures. We see the greatness of God, we see the great brokenness and need of mankind, we see the incredible love and rescue and redemption which God offers to mankind, and also His promise to ultimately do away with all sin and brokenness and to welcome us in to an eternal and blessed dwelling with Him in His presence. As we come to Psalm 1 and 2, these Psalms are often read together as an introduction to the whole book of Psalms, and we see all of these great themes here in Psalms 1 and 2. Psalm 1 is easily described or summarized as blessed is the one who meditates upon God's ways or laws or walks in His ways. Psalm 2 is easily summarized as blessed is the one who trusts or finds refuge in God's king or His rulership. So let's read Psalm 1 verse 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. Blessed, that sounds awesome. Sign me up. That word has a sense of happy or actually joyful, at peace, whole, content, flourishing in every way is the one. And this has pictures or reminds us of the Genesis account where God created Adam and Eve and planted them in a flourishing environment. And then it says God blessed them and He said it was very good. And God was with them. His very presence was with them, the state of perfect blessedness and perfect flourishing. Of course, that was lost through sin. And yet God promised to rescue and redeem us back to that blessedness and flourishing state. He promised Abraham, He said, Abraham, I will bless you and I will make you a blessing to all nations. God's intent was that this blessing should be going to all nations, to all peoples. Moses himself instructed the people of Israel in this way. In Deuteronomy 27, he gives them the reverse. He said, cursed is the one, not blessed is the one, but cursed is the one who doesn't walk in God's ways. Deuteronomy 28, he said, blessed are those who do follow in God's ways. And he outlines the blessings there. And he says to them, choose life, and choose to follow God, choose God's ways. And so Jesus, when He comes to His Sermon on the Mount, He expounds upon this when He says, blessed are those. And the Jewish hearers would have perhaps in their minds gone to Psalm 1 or Deuteronomy or even Genesis and to discover what is the blessedness, how do we get there? And Jesus expounds it like this. He said, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are those who are meek, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Basically, blessed are those who admit that they're broken and they need God, they desire God, they are thirsting for God. And Jesus promises that He ultimately is the way into this blessed life when He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So Jesus' invitation into the blessed life comes ultimately through the promised Son, Jesus Himself. And this invitation is hinted at here in the Psalms when it says, blessed is the one. It's singular. Blessed is the one who walks in all of God's ways. Well, that can only be Jesus. Only Jesus truly walked in all of God's ways. But He did that in order to make a way of inviting us into this blessed state of flourishing and knowing and walking with God. And that was done through Jesus' death and resurrection on the cross. And so I wonder how you think of blessedness. I think obviously I do anyway, most often think of it coming through other things. I don't think of it as being found in God. But in reality, the most blessed thing you could ever receive is God himself. And that's what we're offered in the person of Jesus. And that's what this psalm is inviting us into, that blessed state. Blessed is the one who walks in God's ways, it says. But Psalm 2 ends with, blessed are all those who find refuge or take refuge in him, speaking of God's King. So there's a built-in invitation here, and looking forward to getting into this psalm and discovering more about what that means. But I want to ask you, how do you think of blessedness? What is your paradigm for blessedness? Do you think of it as receiving God himself? Do you truly believe that that is where all blessedness and flourishing comes from? It's going to be great to look at that as we look at these psalms, and I invite you to join me. Thanks for letting the text talk.